Okay. Welcome to all our viewers. Welcome back to our regular series where we speak with the top management, fund managers of the AMCs, financial institutions, to understand new investment avenues that are available in the market, will be coming into the market, and we understand what are its features, its benefits, insights on why this investment avenue is a great, asset for your portfolio. And today we will be discussing an interesting investment product called as NPS Vatsalya, an NPS scheme for minors. Uh, to discuss more about this investment product on this topic, we have with us with a very senior person from the finance industry, Mr. Saurabh Chaturvedi. He is a vice president at HDFC Life and heads the National NPS Distribution Strategy for the company. He has over 22 years of experience in the industry across multiple sales and strategy functions. So good to have you here, sir. So, it's exciting to speak to you about this new investment product.
Thanks a ton, Abhinay. It is indeed a pleasure to be part of this particular session. Right.
Okay, great. So before we actually, talk about this new product, I think I would like our viewers to understand what the main product, that is the NPS, National Pension Scheme, is all about. So I think our conversation can be divided into two segments. First, about the NPS as a product, and then obviously we'll move on to the agenda of the the discussion, that is NPS Vatsalya. So let me just put forth the first question is about so what is National Pension Scheme, that is NPS, and how does it work?
Certainly. So NPS, which, as you rightly said, National Pension System or National Pension Scheme, it started way back in 2004 with a very basic objective of going ahead and providing a defined contribution-based retirement scheme to the central government employees. So but now, as we speak, post 2004, all the central government employees are part of the NPS scheme. Then subsequently, this particular scheme, which is a scheme which was devised and designed to take care of central government employees' retirals, it got extended in 2009 for all these citizens of India also. And 2011 onwards, there was another wing which was kind of introduced called corporate NPS, wherein the corporates were allowed to take. The original question which you talked about, what is the scheme all about? It's basically a scheme wherein the respective subscriber, whoever goes ahead and makes investment into it, goes ahead and makes investment into various asset classes, keeps contributing it, and that particular phase is called accumulation phase. Within which you build a corpus, you contribute, and the money also grows because it's an NAV-based product. And towards the end of the term, the respective subscriber, or rather the NPS account holder, is allowed to go ahead and make certain withdrawals. And those we'll talk about it as we unfold the other set of features of the product in the subsequent set of discussion. And then certain amount of money can be withdrawn, but the additional overall money, 40% has to be minimum utilized to buy a pension. Now, when I say buy a pension, what happens is that suppose if somebody has accumulated, say, 50 lakh rupees, and 40% of that works out to be about 20 lakh rupees. That gets invested into an annuity scheme, which is nothing but a pension scheme, and then fixed pension for the entire rest of the life, which is called pension period, will continue as it is. So there are two phases. One phase is the accumulation phase, wherein you are contributing and making your money grow. And then thereafter, the retiral phase, wherein you keep withdrawing money, or rather keep receiving your pension, which will never exhaust. It will continue as it is. And that's something which is a biggest advantage of a pension. However, if you put the same 20 lakh into any kind of deposits, it will have a risk of reinvestment. Every 48 months or 60 months, the interest rates will get revised. Whereas in pension, it gets cemented for life. And that's precisely the National Pension Scheme all about. We will over to you.
What are the key benefits? I mean, it seems a very interesting, and it's actually a very interesting product, and it's very necessary. I mean, as a portfolio holder, as any person who likes to invest, should obviously think about their pension, should also think about long-term retirement. So what are the key benefits of subscribing to NPS for a long-term retirement planning?
Excellent question. So in fact, that's something which I keep coming across, as a very, first question, about this particular solution. So if you look at it in totality in the market, as you rightly put through that, it's a retirement solution wherein people should add this in their respective kitty. There are various, benefits of this particular scheme. I'll start with the first one, which basically it allows you to have a systematic investment into a NAV-based product. And when I say NAV-based product, which is net asset value-based product, well, it's a market-linked product. People, get confused with the market-linked product, and that they get, misled with certain myths which are there in the marketplace. People feel that money only gets invested in equity, whereas this particular product has a bouquet of investment choices, which is equity, corporate bonds, and government bonds. Now, when I talk about equity, corporate bonds, and government bonds, the advantage of the same this particular scheme is that depending on your risk appetite, you invest into these three asset classes. However, there is a subject matter expert which is called fund manager in the scheme, which actively manages this fund under these three asset classes: equity, corporate bonds, and government bonds. Of course, depending on the percentage of investment which you have chosen. And then the advantage of this particular scheme is that when you say equity, it is not only equity, it is not all kind of equities. It is only top 200 equities. When you say bonds, it is not all kind of bonds. It is only AA and above credit rated bonds. And when you say government bonds, it is nothing but central and state government bonds. That by itself is a guarantee. Yeah. Now, as a result, what happens is you make investments into these asset classes, and there is a benefit of systematic investment, which is nothing but SIP-based solution is also available, which makes or rather brings in onto the table a benefit of rupee cost averaging, which will definitely have a better returns. Then you also have a flexibility. Unlike some of the other solutions, when you decide to invest, say, 10,000 a month, later you can't change, same like some of the insurance policies wherein you have a premium. Here, 1 month you have gone ahead and invested 10,000. Next month you want to invest 5,000. Next year you want to reduce it to 1,000 and then subsequently increase it. That flexibility is very much available. On the other side, it also carries a very important tax benefit. Now, we will unleash those tax benefits in the subsequent set of discussion also. But as we speak, it has an excellent set of unique tax benefits under Section 80cc D1B. Any individual can avail it who is there in the old regime. And under the corporate NPS umbrella, you can avail, in old and new, both the regimes, up to 10% of your basic in the old regime, up to 14% of your basic in the new regime, in case if the employer has gone ahead and invested in NPS. That's something which is under the tax benefit piece. Other advantage is also the fact that, you can decide on the basis of your age, or rather set your investments on the basis of your age into different investment classes. So that is called auto choice, and that flexibility without any additional cost is not available across anywhere in any of the product. And the biggest icing on the cake is the fact that this is not only India's, it is world's one of the most cost-effective retirement fund, and actively managed fund rather, right? So the fund management charge of this particular product is as low as 0.03 to 0.09%. No asset classes, actively managed asset classes, if you look at it in the industry today, will have such a low, fund management charge. As a result, the total expense ratio of this product is as low as 12 to 13 bips. So these are some of the key benefits of the product, which makes this product very lucrative.
Yeah. Interesting. So I actually had very less knowledge about the expense ratio. And I think that's a very good point for me myself, that to keep that in mind, and I should start increasing my contributions into the NPS more. Okay. The third question is about, sir, how can the NPS subscribers allocate their contributions across asset classes? And we just briefly touched upon asset classes.
Sure.
Contribution across asset classes to create a diversified portfolio.
Sure. Wonderful question. Let me quickly elaborate a little bit more on the asset classes, and then we will talk about how one can go ahead and make allocations as such. So as I mentioned, there are precisely 4 asset classes, ECG, not echocardiogram. It is called equity, corporate bonds, and government bonds. And then the 4th asset class is called alternative investment fund. as we speak, when you look at these 4 asset classes, as I earlier mentioned also, that when you refer to equity, it is only the top 200 equities on the basis of market capitalizations are. I mean, that's the only kind of ambit or rather universe which is available for the fund manager under NPS umbrella to make investments, right? They cannot go beyond that. So that precisely means it is only the large cap and to a certain extent mid cap companies wherein the money can be invested. On the corporate bond side, if you look at it, it is only AA and above credit rated bonds. So that by itself is something which is meaning quite a lot for the investors to look at it, and also the fund manager to look at it, because of the fact that there is a security which is already available. If the credit rating is higher, the repayment capacity of those set of people who are borrowing will be that much more higher, and as a result there is an assurity. On the other side, when you look at government bonds, it's nothing but the long-term bonds of state and central government. Those are the places wherein the money can also be invested. And then you have alternative investment fund. Now, alternative investment funds are nothing but real estate bonds, the wheat funds, and the real estate bonds. Those are the places when money can be invested. However, when you look at equity and alternative asset class, PFRDA, which is a regulatory body of this particular product, has predefined the maximum capping. And in equity, if you look at it, the capping is 75%. And in case of alternative asset class, which is nothing but real estate bonds, there the upper cap is 5%. However, in the corporate bonds and government bonds, if you look at it, one can even have an investment of 100%. So these are different asset classes where the money can be invested. When the investor goes ahead and takes these percentage decision on his own, is called active choice. Now, in case if somebody feels that no, I am not good enough to go ahead and make those decisions as to how much should go into equity, how much should go into corporate bonds and things of that kind, then there is another choice which is called auto choice. Now, auto choice is also called life cycle fund option. As we refer to life cycle, it is nothing but it follows a very basic thumb rule of financial planning, which is younger you are, higher the equity exposure should be; older you are, lesser the equity exposure should be, and that's what it follows. So in the auto choice, you have 4 sub choices. You have aggressive auto choice, you have moderate auto choice, you have a life cycle fund auto choice, and then you also have a conservative auto choice. Now, I'll just quickly touch upon each one of these choices. So when you look at an aggressive one, up to the age of 35, equity exposure remains at 75% in aggressive one. And as the person grows older from the 36th year onwards, the equity exposure keeps coming down, and corporate bonds also comes down for a certain extent, and then it goes back. But overall exposure towards government bonds keeps getting accumulated. So by the time one turns 55, equity exposure comes down to the level of as low as about 20%, and then other other investments they get into the corporate and government bonds. Government bonds has the larger one, which is aggressive, and then you have a moderate one wherein equity exposure is 50% up to the age of 35, and thereafter it keeps coming down. And again, you also have something called balanced life cycle option. This is a new choice which has come in very recently launched by PFRDA. PFRDA is Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority, the governing body of this particular entire product. Now, here the balanced fund has brought in another extent, which is up to the extent of 45 years of age, equity exposure could be up to 50%. Unlike moderate, it is only up to 35 years, equity exposure is 50%. In case of overall balanced fund, it is up to the age of 45, equity exposure is 50%, and then thereafter it reduces. And the last one is conservative. There the equity exposure is up to the age of 35, it is 25%, and thereafter it keeps coming down. So by the time one turns about 50 years old, the equity exposure is as low as about 10%, right? So that's how the overall, exposures are and the choices are. The other advantage of these choices are, in case if one wishes to be there an active choice and later wants to shift to, auto choice, one has a liberty of switching over in a year 4 times.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how the overall, funds get managed. Of course, the contribution is something which the respective, the respective customer can go ahead and decide. The biggest advantage of this particular choice, as I mentioned earlier also, it has a flexibility, right? Today, the market conditions are good. One wishes to have a long-term view into the, equity, can definitely go ahead and do so. However, over a period of time, one feels that, yes, I need to book more profits and kind of switch over to the conservative set of choices. Then one can switch over even up to the extent of 100% into government bonds. So these flexibilities are available at no extra cost. Back to you.
Okay. So then now we come to the very interesting. I mean, I think everybody will be very interested in knowing this. I think the tax season is upon us, and we are
Right.
just 15 days into the budget, and hopefully, we get something good. But coming back to the main aspect, that is the tax benefits. You briefly touched upon those, and we would like to know more. See, what are the tax benefits available on the contributions of NPS under Section 80C, Section 80CCD, and anything more on that?
Sure. Right. Thanks. So, Abhinay, if you look at this particular solution, as I keep speaking, because I've been part of financial planning for a long period of time, and thanks for a wonderful, introduction, by the way. I've been there in financial industry for the last 26 years and 22 years in insurance and pension management. So, if I were to look at, this particular solution, NPS, tax benefit, definitely I'll touch upon a little more in the next 2 minutes time. But before I get into the tax benefit, I also want to kind of leave some more food for thought for all the listeners out here, is the fact that this particular scheme is a pension scheme. And with such a low cost, what is more important for one to look at it is that how my returns are multiplying, and is the expense ratio, less enough to make a better return on investment. And on both the sides, the NPS as a product comes up with flying colors, right? So that's one point which is to be noted. However, coming back to the tax benefit, there are different, tax benefits which are available. There is a tax benefit under Section 80C, which is nothing but all the, set of solutions like fixed deposit, home loan principal component, life insurance policies, all of them are part of that 80C. Their NPS also qualifies as one of the solution. Of course, majority of the people must have already exhausted the limit of 1.5 lakh. So generally, they do not utilize that 80C for NPS contribution. But this is a qualifying product under 80C also. Then there is another unique section called Section 80CC D1B, which you rightly denoted, Abhinay, a while ago. So this 80CC D1B is an exclusive section only applicable for NPS investment. No other investments, can be qualifying under Section 80CC D1B. Mind you, this is only for NPS investors. And here, this particular solution is, this section is available under the old regime. So here, up to 50,000 rupees can be invested in NPS, and one can avail exclusive tax benefit. Then you also have another benefit, which is Section 80CC D2. Now, this particular benefit is something which is counted under the employer-employee relationship, which is called corporate NPS scheme. In this section, the first point, the condition is that the respective employer has to implement NPS for its employees, and then the employees go ahead and opt for NPS. The employer restructures the salary and contributes into NPS. Now, to the tune of 10% of basic and DA can be restructured from other allowances and contributed into NPS. With the upper ceiling of 7.5 lakh, this particular thing can be qualifying, as such. But when I say 7.5 lakh, under 7.5 lakh, EPF, superannuation, and NPS all are counted. So under Section 80CC D2, if one is there in the old regime, then it is 10% of the basic. If one is there in the new regime, then it is up to the extent of 14% of basic can be contributed into NPS, subject to upper limit of 7.5 lakh, and availed as a kind of, tax exemption under Section 80CC D2. So these are different sections. 80CC D2 and 80CC D1B are all mutually exclusive tax benefits and sections. It's not that if you have one, then you cannot avail other. You can avail all of them. ATC is a common one wherein multiple solutions are available. Yeah, I hope I could answer your question.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, the next question then obviously leans onto the fact that, will my maturity corpus be taxed at the time of withdrawal? And if it will be, how much will it be?
Wonderful question. So if I were to tell you, or rather give you a good news, the fact that this particular solution, since I have been integral part of this particular solution since 2013 NPS implementation, initially the returns were taxable. Over a period of time, the product has evolved, and of course, Finance Ministry, we need to give a credit to Ministry and also to the regulator. It's a very vibrant regulator who brought in a lot of changes for the good of the customer. And now, as we speak, the entire withdrawal, of course, the withdrawal which is allowed at the time of maturity, which is, by the way, is 60 years. And in case if it is a corporate NPS, then subject to the respective corporate's retirement age, whichever comes first. So somebody, there is an organization which has a retirement age at 62. So in that case, if it is a corporate NPS, then one has to wait till 62. If there is an organization which has a retirement age at 58, then, one gets a benefit of exit, or rather, normal maturity at the age of 58 itself. So if it is a normal exit, then up to 60% of the corpus can be withdrawn. And the entire withdrawal is tax-free.
That's actually good.
Yeah. So if you were to look at it, that is under section 1012A of Income Tax Act, it is completely tax-free. The other amount, which is 40%, which is to be utilized to purchase an annuity, and pension will start on that. That 40% also does not qualify for any taxability under section ATCC D5. It is tax-free and utilized completely to buy a pension. One more quick point, which I want to, or rather good news, which I want to give it to all the listeners, is the fact that whenever you're purchasing an annuity by virtue of utilizing the corpus of NPS, there is no GST. However, any other product, if you purchase it from the open market, as your own lump sum, you're utilizing it and purchasing an annuity, you will have a GST, charged on the corpus, and that could be quite a substantial amount, as high as about 1.8% of the corpus, right? So that's quite a bit amount of saving, which will definitely be utilized to give you a better and higher pension, right? So that's on the taxability part of it. Yeah.
Okay. So we keep reading about, whenever I have to, read about NPS, talk about it, or, discuss with my friends and family, there's one thing that always comes into the picture is tier 1 and tier 2.
Sure.
Could you help us understand the differences in tax treat? I mean, number one, what is tier 1 and tier 2, and the tax treatment for both the tiers?
Very nice question. And, Abhinay, let me kind of admit this particular thing. This is a myth in the there is a myth in the marketplace, which I want to bust it here. I've done this in all my previous close to about 5,000 odd sessions, which I have conducted in the last few years' time. If I were to tell you, people generally get confused. They feel that NPS tier 1 account is an account which, if somebody is opening corporate NPS, then only it is tier 1. And if somebody is under individual umbrella, then it is a tier 2 account. Let me, quickly tell you all the listeners, that it is a myth, which I want to bust it here. It is a wrong information, which, is kind of floating across. Tier 1 account is a principal or main pension account. Anybody or everybody, whoever wishes to go ahead and make an investments into NPS, tier 1 account is the first mandatory account to be opened. Whether it is individual or corporate NPS umbrella, doesn't matter. In both the umbrellas, this is the first account which is to be opened. Tier 2 account is an add-on account, which, precisely the regulatory body over a period of time realized the fact that since it's a NAV-based product, similar like mutual funds, while people are investing into NPS as a retirement fund, they're realizing the fact that it is very good, return-oriented product. Returns have been in double digit. So if they want to pull out some of the money from mutual fund and invest in here because of the better returns and also lowest cost actively managed fund, that's where, the regulatory body also thought through that in case if it gets invested, if that kind of investment gets invested into the Tier 1 account, which is main pension account, that money might get, kind of clocked or rather invested for a longer duration. It will not be allowed to be withdrawn as and when the investors feels like. To get a flavor of mutual fund, Tier 2 account was formulated. Now, in Tier 2 account, as and when you feel like investing, you can invest. As and when you feel like withdrawing, you can keep withdrawing also. So that's something which is completely like a mutual fund. And hence, the product has also becoming more and more popular. People are investing in Tier 1 and parallelly also trying to invest in Tier 2, as and when that myth is busted. Otherwise, people feel that no, Tier 2 is a different thing, Tier 1 is a different thing. They get confused. So the clarity which I want to, or rather entire clarity which I want to give it to all the listeners is that Tier 1 is a main principal pension account. One should always have it and build a disciplined investment way to build a super corpus for retirement. And Tier 2 should be utilized to meet your aspirations, other aspirations of your life, like traveling around the world, buying a new car, upgrading a car, constructing a house, or all the savings related aspirations what you have. You should make investments in Tier 2 and multiply your returns and utilize the withdrawals as and when you feel like.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So like I understand this, what you said. So now I have a NPS account. So that for me that's a Tier 1 account. Now if I then start, I mean I continue my retirement planning corpus the way that you just suggested. Regular consistent investment. Now I want to add up to the returns part of it. I want to add it to the other segment which are my ambitions or aspirations. This is where I will put in an additional money. I'll have an option and I can then have a Tier 2 account, which is obviously will be a sub part of my Tier 1 account only. Or will it be will it be a second account? How does that work then?
Wonderful question. Very nice question. So basically what happens is whenever you open your NPS account, you will be allocated a PRAN, Permanent Retirement Account Number. Easy to remember because PAN everybody remembers. PAN's full form is, Abhinay, if I may ask?
Yeah, permanent account number.
Right. You need to just add or rather insert one R between P and A. Yeah. And that R, simply put, stands for retirement. And that's how it becomes Permanent Retirement Account Number. Now, this number is unique of its kind and it gets allocated once in a lifetime. It used to be allocated once in a lifetime. Now it has become 3 consecutive PRANs which could be allotted. 3 consecutive PRANs. Otherwise, I mean, that clearly means that once you close one PRAN, then only you can have another PRAN. Now, answering to your question, Tier 1 account gets reflected under the same PRAN, and then subsequently, when you open a Tier 2 account, will also get reflected under the same PRAN. It's just that there will be 2 tabs when you are tracking your fund performance. You'll be in a position to see Tier 1 separately and Tier 2 separately.
Yeah, I think that pretty much solves the question, sir. I mean, exactly. So then now we have a good idea about what is NPS, how does it work, what are the tax implications, what are the benefits actually. I mean, the major part has been about the benefits. Now let's come to the main discussion point, that is the NPS Vatsalya. So could you tell us more about the NPS Vatsalya scheme?
Wonderful. So let me give you a quick background of NPS Vatsalya and then we will get into the scheme. So today as we speak, we always have a tendency of, inculcating a habit of savings among our children. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure all of us have that particular habit. The moment when the child is born, we try bringing something called piggy bank. In my, childhood, I remember I had mitti wala, small gullak. And
Yes.
Now there are different advanced versions of those piggy banks which are available, which people use it. But the biggest challenge of these piggy banks would be the fact that you keep on investing or rather putting in money there, but it does not multiply. It doesn't grow. And that's where the children whom we are trying to teach this particular savings habit, they are also thinking that, oh, this money is something which is a dead money. I'm just putting in there. There is nothing, no growth at all. Whereas the parents are also trying to teach, beta, when you invest savings, you get interest, you get a lot of return on investment, and then money grows, which is actually and practically not shown anywhere in the piggy bank at all. Or on the other side, sometimes, we open a minor account wherein the, savings account, one lands up having an interest of as low as, 2.5% to 3.5%. And looking at that, what is the situation today? The children of today, or rather the Gen Zs of today, if you look at it, the moment when they see, a product coming in, they always say that, I mean, in fact, I have a privilege of managing a lot of Gen Zs in my team itself. They always feel, and they ask a question that, sir, in case if I'm investing today, how much am I getting after 12 months or after 6 months or after 3 months? That's about it. That's something which is called a habit, which is inculcated over a period of time. People are not patient enough to, wait for 10, 12, 15 years. And as a result, what is happening is that people have become very impatient. Only the short-term investments is something which people are trying to look at it. And in the bargain, with all due respect, I'm not saying that short-term investments are not good. They are very good. They should be there, part of your investment basket. But if you try pumping in everything there, then you try landing up burning your fingers. And that is something which is actually happening. There are data, points which, if you look at it, there are a lot of people who invest into futures and options, but close to about 80 to 90% of the people don't make money out of it. It's only that 10% elite class, which has a core competence of managing it, lands up making good return on investment. Now, the background of this entire piece was only one: the fact that this particular product was designed and devised, the NPS Vatsalya, with an intent of developing or inculcating a habit of savings among the children. Now, you look at, two children. One child goes ahead and makes investments into a fixed deposit or a rather, savings bank account for about 10 years or about, say, 18 years. And on the other side, there is another child, whose parent has opened an NPS Vatsalya account. He keeps on investing for 18 years. You will land up having, 4 times of the returns what the other child must have invested with 3.5% of returns, right? So as a result, what will happen is that over a period of time, when both the children are turning 18, one child will say that no, savings for a long term is not good enough because the returns are not there. Let me also invest into something which can get me a short-term return and faster return. Whereas the other child, who has seen the benefit of compounding with the help of about 12 or 10 to 12% of returns, such a high return on investment, will definitely have more amount of patience to go ahead and then thereafter make investments in such a way that, he will be in a position to understand the power of compounding in a practical way. And that is what is NPS Vatsalya all about. So here what is happening is that the child is a beneficiary, parent is the investment investor. So the child, the parent takes the NPS Vatsalya scheme in the name of child at the age of 0. It can be from 0 to 18 years, any time in between. In that particular age, one can make an investment. And the fund grows. There are various investment options which are available: equity, corporate bonds, government bonds, same like your normal NPS account. Only thing is, in the NPS Vatsalya account, you do not have a tier 2 account. Right? It is only a tier 1 account wherein the money is multiplying, it is getting invested. And then at the age of 18 years, the respective child would be allowed to go ahead and make certain withdrawals. During a course of these 0 to 18 years also, if the child wants to make some partial withdrawals, that is also something which is allowed in the scheme. 3 partial withdrawals are allowed, subject to reasons like education. In a normal NPS account, it is a higher education. In NPS, in NPS Vatsalya, it is education. So that means, say, if the child is 2 years old and parents started investing at the age of 16 when the child gets into 11th standard, or at the age of 17 when the child gets into the higher studies, if the parent wants to make a partial withdrawal from this corpus, can do so to the extent of 25% of the contribution value. Not the corpus value, because the very objective of this product is to build corpus for retirement or build corpus for long term. That's the reason that partial withdrawal is to that extent 25%. Now, here what happens is the fact that, in case if the child has any kind of other critical illness or things of that kind, God forbid, it should not happen. But in case if it is, then, it can be utilized, the money can be utilized for the treatment of the child also, right? At the age of 18, the child will be given an option to go ahead and exit from the scheme either, or convert this NPS Vatsalya account into the mainstream NPS account. When I say mainstream NPS account, it is nothing but same like main NPS account. That's about it. It's a conversion. Now, once the conversion happens, the respective child will have to provide the KYC documents, because the earlier point when the NPS Vatsalya was opened, at that point of time, the parent had provided the KYC, child had only provided the date of birth proof. That's about it. So that's how conversion takes place, and then thereafter it gets converted into mainstream NPS account. The child who has turned adult now can continue contributing and continue building the corpus.
Okay.
I hope I could give you the background of NPS
Yes.
Vatsalya and also the...
Yes. Actually, in the process, you answered 3 of my questions. Because
Right.
my next questions were about the fact, how seamless is the transition, and I think the transition is quite seamless. I mean, if my brother who is a minor today, I open an account for him and he turns 18, and it's just that he needs to do his KYC, and his NPS Vatsalya account will just get transitioned into a regular NPS
mainstream
account,
NPS,
which obviously is quite beneficial for him in the long run as well.
Certainly.
So, I mean, sir, now that, we got the key benefits, key features, into the picture, I actually want to understand that why was this thing brought into, I mean, you briefly touched upon it while explaining the, product in itself. But, I want to know that how does NPS Vatsalya, this particular product, promote long-term financial security for minors? Because it's very important that, I see, because I also deal with, Gen Z people. I mean, obviously not much like you, but a little bit of my 2 cents. And then I see that the way we learned, I mean, you guys learned it the better way. I am learning through my own channels, but the way the younger generation is now learning, they are learning it through various different sources, which are not so trustworthy. So how does, in this case, a government-backed scheme like a pension scheme helps them understand that long-term financial security is important, and it can support their future goals and education as well?
Right. Excellent question. So some part of it, I talked about it earlier, but I want to kind of give you certain points, which will kind of help us, or rather I'll bring it onto the table, certain points which are important for the respective Gen Zs and the, people who are growing, for them to understand. So one of the biggest point is that, as I mentioned earlier also, people do not believe in long-term investments. That is something which is slowly and gradually, fading away. Of course, for a period of time, people realize it, but at times it fades away. But if this kind of investment is something which is introduced, or rather it is already introduced, people are taking it. By the way, there are about 89,000 plus, subscribers who have opted for NPS in a span of just about 18th of September is when it was launched. And as we speak today, it's close to about 3.5, 4 months. And about 89,000 people have already gone ahead and opened NPS Vatsalya account. Now, coming back to the point, your original question, that how do people get convinced with the fact that, this is a product which will take care of their, long-term needs, and at the same time, would it be good enough for them to take for them to invest into this particular thing, and this will also take care of some of the other important milestones of life? Could be higher education, could be the other set of few things. So when you look at this particular scheme per se, this particular scheme NPS Vatsalya does not have any upper cap.
Okay.
Your minimum investment is 1,000 rupees, upper limit is unlimited. Now here there is another advantage of this particular scheme, which many times people do not talk about it, but I always by this particular idea of protecting the child's future by making investments into it. Because here what happens is the concept of beneficiary is introduced. So that clearly means if I am making an investment into NPS Vatsalya, and I'm taking it for my child, my son, tomorrow if anything happens to me, since there is a concept of beneficiary which is introduced, what will happen is that if I had taken a loan or something of that kind, nobody can touch my NPS Vatsalya account. It belongs to the child. So child's future is getting secured by virtue of having this investment. Unlike some of the other solutions, had it been a situation that I would have had a fixed deposit in the bank, and I also had a loan, if something happens to me, those people from whom I have taken the loan can go ahead and utilize this fixed deposit of mine. Whereas NPS Vatsalya cannot be utilized for the repayment of any of such things. As a result, it is protecting the child's future. On the other side, since the child is experiencing a power of compounding effect practically, not by virtue of kind of a verbal communication, or not by virtue of just giving a theoretical knowledge, practically he is experiencing it. I will explain you with an example. Suppose somebody is contributing 10,000 rupees per year, parent, and child is just about 0 years old, and parent started and contributes it for 18 years. That clearly means about 18,000, 1,80,000 is what parent must have contributed. If this fund grows at 10%, just 10%, the fund value will be 5,01,591 rupees. However, the return on investment, if you look at it, of this particular product has been in double digit. I've just taken a hypothetical situation, 10% being the returns. 5,01,591 is the corpus. And I'm very sure the child who's seeing that the father is investing just about 900 rupees a month, at the end of the 18th year, the child is getting such a sumptuous amount of 5 lakh rupees against that monthly tiddly-biddly contribution of 900 rupees, will definitely excite the child. However, I'll give you some more larger picture. Suppose if the same money, which is 5,01,000 rupees, gets, or rather remained invested there, and the child does not touch that for the next 40 years. He just keeps it there. And looking at the fund performance of NPS, if we see, even if the fund grows at 10%, this 5,01,000 in a span of next 40 years time will become 2.75 crores. However, I will give you another picture also. And this is what is power of compounding, which people do not kind of, see it. And while I'm practically talking about it, people will, if they experience it after those many years, they'll feel even more super excited about it. If the return on investment is, say, about 11.59%, which has been the I talked about the moderate choice option. If people have invested in moderate choice option, which is 50% in equity, 30% in corporate bonds, and 20% in government bonds, if that has been the investment for 40 years, returns as per the past of last 14 years has been about 11.59%. So if this 5,01,000 rupees is kept aside for the next 40 years, and the fund grows at 11.59%, mind you, this money will become 5.97 crores. And if the money would have been invested into aggressive choice, which is 75% in equity and then remaining into bonds, the returns as per the past of last 14 years compounding has been about 12.86%. So keeping the same rate, if this 5,01,000 rupees is kept aside for next 40 years, will become 11.05 crores. Just imagine. Of course, that 11.05 crores after 40 years might not have such a large value, but will definitely have a sumptuous amount of value. And that is something which is very, very important. I just thought, rather than only telling you the theoretical pointers, I'll give you some empirical value to, as points to ponder. And I think that will kind of excite the respective listeners also to see this particular solution and kind of take a measured call of making an investment. If you have any more questions, back to you again.
Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps it all up. I mean, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for such a lovely insights onto this product of NPS and NPS Vatsalya. Actually, I mean, personally speaking, I knew about NPS, but now looking at the other aspects of it and the benefits of it, now I think I am even more informed and educated, and I think our viewers will be too after this, by listening to this session. Thank you so much for your time, sir, and hope
Pleasure
to
is mine.
yes,
Yeah.
hope to
Thanks
speak
a
to you
lot.
soon. Thank you so much.